Hello, everyone. I'm Jake.
I'm Hannah. Hello. Welcome to another episode of I Hate My Life and Everything Should Burn.
But luckily, you only have to hate your life for 8 or so sentences for this chapter. Um, this is. Look, he does his best. This is Dave Rubin's exhaustive chapter on Asian privilege and why. I guess I'm assuming he's saying that look, white privilege isn't really a thing. Look at Asian privilege. So, the
I'll have you
myth
know, by
of
the
Asian
way,
privilege.
Dave Rubin is in very good company with this Asian privilege take because the other day on Chud Watch, which you should check out at twitch.tv/Hannah Reloaded, gotta
Oh,
get the plug-in.
real common.
Uh, I watched an incel who also brought up Asian privilege in the same video where he said women shouldn't be allowed to, vote or work or do anything other than have babies. So Asian privilege is a stance of quality individuals,
Oh
just for
yeah,
the record.
Asian privilege is it runs rife through the dum dum crowd, as we like to call them. Your dumb friend, like a dumb person's smartest friend. Like that's pretty much these people. They like to fancy themselves a free thinker. They've seen a Sargon video or two. They like a little milk boy on the side. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, I can read you this entire thing in like 2 seconds, but I think I'm not supposed to read entire chapters of anything. So
No,
here's what. Well, I mean, we do have to even do that. He literally just goes. They make a decent amount of money per capita. $78,000 is the average household income for Asian Americans. 62,000 for white. Wow, I didn't know that. That's really high. 46,000 for Hispanics and 37,000 for blacks, which is a quote. And then so that's why they don't have privilege or something, or that white people don't, or I don't know what the
white
point
people
is.
don't have privilege because they aren't at the top of the hierarchy, and in order for a hierarchy to exist, white people have to be at the top of it. Either way, again, I think this is emblematic of
White people hegemony.
I think this is emblematic of a problem that I come into a lot when we're talking about right-wing talking
Mm-hmm.
points, and it usually has to do with their immunity from context and actually looking into why states
Yeah.
exist rather than, how do I put this? They think things just exist naturally, and therefore it is what it is.
Oh yeah.
Whereas when you actually look at cause and effect, you can actually look at statistics and explain why they exist the way they do.
Yeah.
We've talked about the Asian privilege talking point before, and a disproportionate amount of Asian immigrants tend to be of higher wealth when they come into the country, which skews things quite a bit for
Right.
the statistics.
And the thing about this is wealth is one of many ways we determine what privilege there would be. So it when we say white privilege, it doesn't mean black people don't have privileges. A black person has privileges depending on who they are. It's totally contextual about your experience. Broadly speaking, white people in America have the most privilege, and I'll tell you why I know that, because we interned Asian Americans during World War II. Surprise! And this, I know they think, oh, that was just the Japanese. Dave Rubin, you couldn't pick a Korean from a Japanese person if they told you what they were, right? Like, so I watched this chef, David Chang, who's a lefty, sort of a celebrity chef. He has lots of stuff on Netflix that you've probably seen before. He has a really great one. I think it's he takes celebrities around like Seth Rogen. Well, I can't remember her name. She's a really great follow on Twitter. She's married to John Legend, and I wish I wasn't categorizing her that way because she's better than him. But I can't remember her name for the life of me. She's fantastic. Anyway, he goes around and does a lot of cool stuff, and he has this one series where he likes to talk about social issues alongside someone. So he did a fried chicken episode where he had a black person talk about fried chicken and how that's like like everyone likes fucking fried chicken, but also like how, and I as a white guy, I'd never thought about this ever. Of course, why would I? And he's a descendant of, he's a second generation Korean immigrant, so his parents came here. They had a restaurant, I believe, or I think they had a restaurant because he's in the restaurant business. Could be misremembering, but I'm pretty sure that's it. And he has all these memories of he likes egg rolls, and he likes things that are like what white America would think is Asian food, right? And there's certain aspects of like foods that he just decides not to eat, specifically some Korean stuff, and because in public he feels like people are judging him in a way, like in a racist way. And they go through this. It was really fascinating, just as like this, just from a food perspective, and just from all this. Like there's so many things within our culture that's baked into the othering of people that has nothing to do with their familial wealth, right? Just because Asian Americans tend to have decent educations, or they tend to have like more average household income in this case, that is not the only barometer for success or privilege. I don't, just like literally talk to an Asian person, literally talk to one and be like, so how do you feel like you are negatively treated in America due to literally your innate being considered Asian by the white people here? Like, what do you think? And they'll tell you it's all sorts of stuff.
Sure. I'm also reading an article real quick from the civilrights.org in regard to this, and it's an article entitled "Stop Pointing at Asian Americans to Downplay Racism at excuse me, at universities." Although this applies more generally to the topic at hand and as a whole. Let me see.
You sneeze
when the Asian
better
community,
than me.
Thank you.
I say
when the
achoo.
Asian. It says, quote, "But when the Asian American community is broken down into its respective ethnic groups, a drastically different picture emerges. The poverty rate amongst Nepalese Americans is 21% higher than the official poverty rate. Hmong Americans are 20% less likely to have a bachelor's degree, or more than the average American. In contrast, 70% of Indian Americans have at least a bachelor's degree, and their average household income is 80% higher than the American average. The myth continues to be used as evidence against institutional racism.
Yep.
If Asians can do well, it says any minority group can, if they just apply themselves. But research suggests that the upward mobility of Asian Americans over the past century is actually a result of post-war declines in labor market discrimination against them as compared to other minorities. Meanwhile, restrictive immigration policies from 65 on have favored and attracted highly educated Asians to the United States. In contrast, most African Americans can trace their family history back to generations of slavery, followed by a century and a half of systematic racism." So again, we come back to the fact that conservatives tend to ignore the fact that our present is the direct result of our history, and Asian Americans in the United States, well, they have had plenty of bullshit happen to them. Again, the internment of Japanese Americans, discrimination across the board. I would argue it's probably less pervasive and less ingrained in American society than discrimination against African Americans because of the shadow of slavery that continues to loom over us to this day.
Yeah, absolutely. He also, of course, finishes the chapter with fundamentally misunderstanding the word systemic. Because, again, they can't... Like you just said, according to research. Like, he'd never look at research. He'd never look at it. He'd just go, okay, how much money do they make? Because capitalism. It's like... Not okay. So his
The citation, by the way, for that research is from the National Bureau of Economic Research in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and it's entitled "Upward Mobility and Discrimination: The Case of Asian Americans."
And his citation for systemic racism being real, but only in ways that serve his argument, is Harvard University has chosen to make it harder for Asian applicants to be accepted into the university because they outperform their peers. So systemic racism is real, but only in Harvard.
The article actually...
That's what systemic racism is, and I don't even know if that's true. But, like, that's just not what systemic racism is. Systemic racism is our structural system in our country and the society within it, not a system within the system. Does that make sense? Like you having a racist boss at McDonald's does not make McDonald's systemically racist. Like that McDonald's systemically racist. Like that's not what systemic racism is. Ah, that's situational. It's like very specific. Systemic racism explains long periods of time, the way we socialize, the zeitgeist that we go through, the economic turns, and the laws that are on the books on the at the time that influence what happens in the future. Again, product of our history. It's wild to me that that I don't know. It's so obvious. I don't know. Maybe it's a history thing, but you didn't study history. You studied dropping out. Like so. Is there anything else we got to talk about for this?
I don't think so.
That's
it's
the
an
end
incredibly
of the,
short chapter.
It's literally
and it's just
8
retreading
sentences, yeah.
stuff that we've discussed this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Again, it has to do with context and history. It has to do with a mix of less severe discrimination for Asian Americans than like African Americans.
Yeah.
Coupled with higher rates of high income or high wealth immigrants coming rather than, again, being the descendants of slaves.
Yeah.
And then having to deal with generations and generations of discrimination from Jim Crow and segregation and otherwise.
Mm-hmm. And just from because we have clearly we're gonna have some white audience members. Because we probably haven't had to deal with it or ever thought about it, I would suggest doing the following. Talk to your Asian friends and ask them, because it's probably very illuminating to you. Like, hey, how do you experience racism? It just behoove you, if they want to talk about it, of course, force them. But I'm assuming most Asian people that I am friends with seem to be like, oh yeah, let me tell you about how white people are treating me shitty. They usually will take the opportunity because it's a good vent for most people that have to experience this bullshit. But if you don't, you don't have to seek that out either. If you just want to, again, that David Chang series, which I will look up right now, just so you have the name of it. David Chang Netflix. Ugly Delicious is one of them. And the other one is Breakfast, Lunch, and Dinner. Where that's the one where he has different guests. Ugly Delicious is good too, where he'll invite his friends along and they do stuff. They talk about culture and stuff. But really, Breakfast, Lunch, and Ugly Delicious, he also goes through if you're a new parent. He's a new dad, so that's also cool. It's very cool. It's very introspective, and I really dig that kind of content with people when they're really open about stuff. I used to really appreciate Anthony Bourdain for the same reason. And David Chang does a very similar thing where he's a very good communicator. He's not as good a writer as Bourdain was, but he's definitely good at sussing or pulling out information from other people. But Breakfast, Lunch, and Dinner, he has just so many good people. There's only like 4 episodes, I think. But Seth Rogen isn't one of them. Who was the other? I desperately want to remember her name because I feel so stupid.
What was she in?
See, full cast. There we go. Okay, so Chrissy Teigen. I'm so stupid. She's such a good follow on Twitter. She's talented herself, and I didn't want to describe her as some dude's wife, like, because that's not what she is. She's really funny. He also has Chrissy Teigen on. John Legend, I believe, shows up in a phone call at one point. He takes Seth Rogen and they get high in Vancouver. Kate McKinnon, they go somewhere and she's super fascinating. And then Lena Waithe, who some people may or may not know, but you've definitely recognized her. She's a black actress, producer. She was in Ready Player One, the van driver, his best friend. It was a bad movie, but she's also in the...
Yeah, I blocked out Ready Player One.
Yeah, The Shy, Queen and Slim, Master of None. She's really fantastic. And yeah, they talk about their shared experiences of the way racism and stuff affects them, but also just super funny and fantastic. So, again, I don't know why I'm simping for this guy, but it's the first thing I thought of that genuinely, like, it bloomed in my head like I don't know, the way he communicated his experiences were impactful to me as a white guy that doesn't have to deal with that. So,
speaking of Ready Player One, did you hear anything about Ready Player Two?
Are they making a movie? I know that the book,
they
the
made
book
a
came
book.
out. Well, I know the book
don't know
came
if
out,
they'll
but
end up-
okay, good.
I hope they don't do a movie.
He turns
I
into
really-
the dick, right? He's just a dick.
I mean, he was a dick in the first one anyway.
Well, sure,
like-
he gets billions of dollars, and they still live in fucking endless poverty. I don't, whatever.
He was a dick the whole thing. I read that book. Oh my god, I hate.
Is he
Someone
more of a
was
dick
my-
in the book than he is in the movie? Oh yeah, right into the mic.
Yeah, that's good. Someone's
We're still
into it.
recording.
I know.
Okay.
I know where I am.
Sometimes I forget, so I don't know. You know, as long as you know.
He's just still more of a creepy, like, neckbeard type in the book.
Dude, that relationship makes no sense.
No. Oh my god, and my least favorite trope. Oh my god, I love you anyway, even though you're ugly, and she's just like a conventionally
obviously
attractive woman, but happens to have like a birthmark
I
on
had
her face.
I had a huge crush on a girl that had a birthmark on her face. When I was in school, and I thought about her when I watched that. And I'm like, you fucking idiot! She's really pretty. Like, what is wrong with you?
I'll never forgive them for making the Iron Giant fight other giant robots and stuff. He is not a gun! That was like the whole point of the movie!
He is Groot. So, that's the end of this video. If you wanna hang out with us in the future, do the thingies on the YouTube stuff. We also have a bunch of other videos about Dave Rubin. If you're just catching this one, his book is terrible, and we're going through the whole thing. And next up, we have Jordan Peterson. Speaking of which, we did Jordan Peterson in the past, so you might like that. He didn't. Or his fans didn't. They got really fucking mad. We purged a lot of dum-dums during that time and gained friendlies, which is nice because Jordan Peterson is dog shit. Next up, we have, and you should look forward to this, stop being racist and sexist to straight white men. I know. I'm oppressed, okay? I feel the daily oppression. Your boot is on my throat every single day. Hannah,
True.
I am tired of this.
It's actually a
I'm into
stiletto.
it a little bit, but I'm also not, okay?
Okay.
All right. Maybe you were tall. Maybe you were an 8-foot tall vampire lady with big bazongas.
That's the goal.
I might let you 8 feet. Okay. The bazongas I get. The 8 feet is. It may not be in the cards, but I will support
How
any
dare
endeavor.
you.
Any endeavor you take to become 8 feet tall. That hat though. Whew. Anyway, yeah, that actually might be on the thumbnail. Now that I'm thinking about it. Anyway. I love your faces. What part of them do you love most? They're caruncles?
What is a caruncle?
It's the googly part on a turkey. Just shit. Caruncles. Like when Gavin McInnes doesn't have a beard, he's got caruncles. You know, the Proud Boy guy. There's not that anymore.
I don't even know who that is.
Oh. Look it up. Look up Gavin McInnes. No beard. Caruncles. Oh, wait.
Hold on.
Do you want to wait?
Yeah.
MCINN something. It'll fill out. Gavin. No beard. Those are caruncles right there.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not good.
Oh, no.
I don't know how your profile gets that way. I'm a big boy, and that's not happening over here, okay? So I don't know. I don't know what causes caruncle. Probably racism.
I guess.
I am a Western chauvinist. And I am not ashamed to have built the Western world. I think that's what they say when they get jumped in the... Anyway, that'll come up next time because literally Dave Rubin says that. So, have a good time. Hannah loves your caruncles.